when you pay attention to the mental activity, you're witnessing the difference between the interpretation that your mind is making and what's actually so. They're two different things. You're witnessing the difference. Your mind is always telling you a story about everything all the time. Right? When you wake up in the morning, it starts talking to you about the day. Right? It's telling you all the time. And the way it's relating to what's happening is it's relating to what's happening as if what's happening is separate from you. What's happening is separate from you. You're the one that it's happening to. This is the mental state. The mental state has it that you're the one life is happening to. You're the one other people are happening to. And the teachings and practices are about the understanding that that is not true. You are not the one that life is happening to. You are life happening. You are actually like, if you are not real and you don't exist, if you subtract the you from the situation, what's left?
What's happening?
Yeah, and what happened to the you?
It's just happening, it's not happening to the person.
The you was always what's happening. Your personality is always part of what's happening. It's never separate from it. When you understand this, you're seeing the personality you're seeing that the personality is what you're not. You can see it. That's why you know it's not you. Just like the body, you can see it. That's how you know it's not you. Do you understand that? Something that you can see can't be you. It can't be you. If it was you, you'd be looking from it, not at it, right? My hand's not looking at me, I'm looking at my hand, right? So if I can see it, it can't be me, right? And you can see the personality. Where do you see it? Up here. Up here. It's playing all the time. It has a voice in your head talking all the time about what's happening. And the way it's talking about what's happening, it's talking about what's happening as if it's happening to me. That's my view of what's happening. It's happening to me. And if my view is that it's happening to me, right, then what I'm interested in is how can I control it? How can I manipulate it? How can I stay out of the way of it, right? So it doesn't get me, right? So this is the setup. And then when you're in relationship with other people, they're happening to you. And if the way they happen to you causes the mind to be upset, what do? Yeah, you don't do anything. The nervous system does it, and you follow it, right? Because the nervous system all of a sudden shoots you a heavy dose of energy, right? Makes you hypervigilant. Because why? Because you're under attack, right? And you don't necessarily look at it this way. You just feel angry, and you feel that this other person, what they said or what they're doing, they shouldn't be saying and doing. That's wrong. And it's a threat to me that they're saying and doing it because it's happening to me. So I have to stop it from happening to me. I have to stop you from making that happen to me. If you're married, it's called a divorce. Yeah. But if you keep playing the game that way, you're going to be getting divorced a lot. Because as soon as it starts happening to you, as soon as the other person starts happening to you, all right, instead of being the one who is making you happy, see, when you fall in love, they're the one that's making you happy, right? So they're your God. You can't live without them. They're making you happy. That's why people say, I want to be with you the rest of my life because you're making me happy. I want to keep that source of my happiness with me at all times, right? And then all of a sudden you say something or look at me a certain way, and my mind goes, they're not who you thought they were. You made a mistake. You thought they were making you happy. You thought they loved you. But if they loved you and they were making you happy, they wouldn't say that. They wouldn't do that. Therefore, they must not be the source of your happiness. In fact, they are now the source of your suffering. And so what will you do? You will try and put them in their place and tell them, stop causing me to suffer. You know, you're not meeting my needs anymore. You're making me suffer. Stop making me suffer. Change. Be different. I'll tell you how to be different. Don't do this, don't do that, and do more of this and do more of that. And if you can follow that and do that well, then I'll keep you. That's not said, but it is thought, right? And then the other person hearing that is saying, that's interesting because I feel the same way about you now. Right? So how do you get beyond all that, right? How do you get beyond human relations? Because human relations are bound to fail as long as you take it that you're separate. Bound to fail, has to fail. Because you're depending on the other person to know how to treat you, right? Even though they don't know what your conditioning is. How are they going to know how to treat you? Right? You're depending on them to be able to read your mind, and they can't, right? So it's inevitable that they're going to make the mistake of saying or doing something that you read to be wrong, that you interpret to be wrong, that you interpret to be insulting, or you interpret to be hurting you. You're hurting me. You're hurting my feelings. Stop hurting my feelings. Okay? This is what David means when he's talking about the fact that you're giving the power to another person to disturb you. You're giving them that power. And if you understand that it's not them that's disturbing you, it's the reaction that your mind's having to them that's disturbing you, but you don't know the difference between the reaction and them. So you say it's them that's disturbing me. But it's not them that's disturbing you, it's your own mind that's disturbing you. So how do you deal with that? You pay attention to your mind and you stop using it as a way of functioning. You don't use the mental state as a way of functioning. It will get you into a lot of trouble. Right? So you pay attention to it. You take care of it. See, sometimes in the teachings, they use the word mind synonymous with awareness. Has any of you picked up on that? Yeah. And what they mean is, well, you could use the word mind as the same as being synonymous for awareness because the mind is where everything shows up. Right? So it's the same thing. The mind is where everything shows up. But how does it show up in the mind? It shows up in the mind after it's interpreted by your conditioning. Right? So you're seeing the aftermath. You're never seeing things as they are. You're seeing the way they were. When something happens, you don't see what's happening. You see what you think and how you feel about what's happening, and you think that is what's happening. You see the difference? If you understand that difference, then you have the key to the kingdom. You have the keys to the kingdom. Because if you understand that difference, you understand that all I ever have to do to have a consistent experience of well-being, right, is when my mind's off track, see that it's off track and not agree with it. That's how you take care of it. And that's training the mind. Because when you see when it's off track and you don't agree with it and you don't follow it and you don't act on it, right? Then that programming will gradually die out from disuse. You're not using it. You're not identifying with it. Right? So it'll start to get quieter. There'll start to be less things that are disturbing to you. And your ability to be well, your ability to experience a state of well-being will be more consistent simply because you recognize that I am not depending on the condition my mind's in to be my condition. I'm not depending on whether my mind's upset to determine if I'm upset. My mind can be in a reaction, my mind can be upset, I can be aware of it. That doesn't mean I won't feel those feelings. It doesn't mean those thoughts won't occur, but those thoughts won't occur in such a way that I take them to be happening to me. They're just happening in the mind, that's all. I don't know.
How is the mind and awareness the same thing? Because awareness is
Unconditioned.
present, and the mind is kind of after the fact, the interpretation. It's not.
Yeah, but the interpretation plays in awareness, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess everything is awareness.
Everything is awareness, right? But the awareness gave permission to the mind to take itself to be separate. It did that. And it works that it did that. So you can't enjoy the fact that it did that, right? Because you take it personal. You can't enjoy the fact that the mind operates the way it does because you think that the mind You've been conditioned, see, in your early, it's interesting because in your early life as a child, right, a child does depend on the mind because the child has been introduced to the mind as an expression of who they are. So they do depend on the mind, and that developmental reality has to occur. In fact, your ability, see if you can catch this, your ability to experience your true nature depends on how strong your ego is. A lot of people would say, that doesn't make sense. You have to be strong enough to let go, right? Your ego has to be stable enough. That's why meditation is not a good idea for people that are having serious mental illness. Now, you have to have stability first. You have to have stability first. You have to have a solid sense of who you are as an ego. You have to have a solid sense of who you are as an ego so you can experience the confidence to let that go. So there's nothing wrong with being an ego. That's the important thing to understand. It's just like Paul Hederman says, it's reality trying to become reality. The ego, your personality is the awareness. Your personality is the consciousness. All there is consciousness. So what is there to resist? All there is consciousness. Your personality is consciousness having taken the form of a separate self. Now the question is, can you enjoy that? That's the question. Can you enjoy it? Or does it cause suffering because you take it to be true? Do you understand? That's all. You can have fun with being a personality. You can laugh at yourself. You can have fun for being a personality if you understand it's not real. As soon as you take it to be real, it gets serious, doesn't it? So you have to understand these teachings, and then you have to apply the teaching. And the application of the teaching means that you have to consistently be aware of what's happening in the mind and understand that what's happening in the mind is your conditioning. And therefore, you can be aware of it. There will be reactions that occur there. But you can know the difference between those reactions and what you are. And if you know the difference between those reactions and what you are, no matter what happens, it won't bother you because it's not happening to you. Because the you that you took yourself to be doesn't actually exist. Therefore, nothing can happen to you. The freedom is not freedom for you, it's freedom from you. Because without you, everything's smooth sailing, isn't it? That's why what you want most, Freud said this, the death wish. Did anybody ever hear that? Freud talked about the death wish. Everybody wants to die. What did he mean by that? What he meant by that is everybody wants to get rid of the one that everything's happening to, because that's where their suffering is happening. And the good news is you don't have to get rid of the one that everything is happening to, because there never was one that everything is happening to. That's the fatal mistake that people make. As soon as you hear the fact that the awareness is your true nature, the self that you took yourself to be says, oh, I'm going to realize that. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to meditate on that. I'm going to practice that. I'm going to learn about that. I'm going to get there someday. You're never going to get there. That's what he meant last night when he was talking about the fact that who you take yourself to be can't practice anything, because who you take yourself to be isn't real. You can't practice anything. But you can sit down and be still and be available so that what is true can occur. That's what's happening when you meditate. You're just being silent and still to put yourself in a position, make yourself available. And this is why I was saying in the last class, what does it mean to make yourself available? It means to be open. To just sit still and be open. And in this stillness and in this openness, since what will be out of the way that was confusing everything, in this stillness and in this openness, the potential for everything to reveal itself to you goes way up fast, because you're not in the way. What's in the way of your experiencing the truth? You are. How do you get out of the way? Realize that you're not in the way. Because there is no you to be in the way. That's just a mental operation that's happening. It's just a mental operation. it's not going to make a difference in terms of, when you hear these things. See, when you hear these things, the self that you take yourself to be wants something to change, doesn't it?
Yep.
When you hear these things, the self that you take yourself to be wants things to change so you could experience the possibility, right? However, you are experiencing the possibility, and what's in the way is that you think you're not. So how do you get out of that? You don't have to get out of that because you're not in it. It's reality. You are reality trying to become reality. It's ridiculous. So, any other questions? Okay. See if you can put this to use. If you just listen to this and leave and go back to being stupid, it's not going to work. You gotta very actively be awake. Actively be awake.